All right, welcome to the Darkfaces case study. And if you've been following the Photoshop Top Secret course, you have probably seen this image before, either posted on a blog or the Photoshop Top Secret website, and it's also been featured in a couple of magazines. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to go ahead and show you how I actually created this image. And I'm using several different things to achieve this effect, but let's go ahead and get started. All right, here's the original stock image that I chose for the project, and this was downloaded from istockphoto.com. And I really like this image because the product is called Photoshop Top Secret, I like the hand over the mouth, so it looks like, it's trying to keep out any secrets and had that whole look, but you can't say anything, it's top secret, or something like that. And it's dark and kind of moody, and I really love it, so I wanted to go ahead and use this photo. But I wanted to add on to it. I didn't want to leave it just like it is, although it's a really nice image, but I wanted to add on to it and change the textures or add a texture over the face and the skin and the hand and add some other metal elements onto it and soup it up a little bit so it looks really cool. But I'll go through here and show you some of the images that I used. And what I did is I went to a stock image website such as Stock Exchange. Here's the actual stock image website where I got the photos from, and a lot of these are free stock photos. All you have to do is find a photo you like and email the author of the photo or the photographer and ask them if you can use the photo for a project. And all you can do is just type in here, engine. You can see I've already done this, but if you just type in a keyword up here and click this button right here, and it will display a bunch of different photos for that keyword, but you can just scroll through here and find different photos and things of parts of engines or photos of engines. There's there's some pretty cool locomotive engine stuff down here, and you can take these photos and mask certain parts of the elements and place them over other photos and create your own little cool looking surreal images. So you can just go to sxc.hu and you'll come to this site and you can enter in your own keywords and for anything just about and find images that you can use for your own projects. And here's one of the images that I got from the exact same website, and I really like how all this looked, so I've used this. Also this image right here, this one, and there's the original, or I'm sorry, there's the finished product, but you can see what I've done is I've actually masked parts of these engines and these photos. And there's the original, the one at the top here. You can see that's what it looked like after I've masked it out. So let's go into Photoshop really quick. I've already got the image opened up right here, and I'll just zoom out a little bit here so we can see the entire image on the screen. Go full screen here. And let's take a look over here on the layers palette. We have several different layers here. Not a whole lot though. I mean, this is not, compared to a lot of projects, this is not a whole lot of layers. And this is not really hard to do. The whole thing about this is just finding the right photos, and that's the most difficult part. Or, finding photos that you think that go well together, parts of different things, metal things, figure out if they just work together well. And sometimes I'll just crop things out and stick them on the photo and move them around until I like it, until I find that the image is looking the way I want it to look. You can also do too much too. You can go a little bit overboard, and I like to step back a little bit. I remember that when I originally created this, I was going to make it this much bigger image with all this other stuff. But I figured, in design, a lot of the times it's what you don't do. And that's what makes an image great. It's what you don't do, and it's so true. And it's the same way with photography. With photography, it's really a lot of times what you don't have in the image, and it's sort of the same way with design. So try to keep that in mind and just be conservative. But I'm just going to go through here, and what I'll do is just make these layers invisible. And we can start at the bottom here. Here's the original right here that I've just cropped out. And you can see that I've extended the canvas beyond the stock image canvas. You can see that. And I've added some shadows on the sides of the face. That way you don't see the edge of the stock image. because it is very close to the side of the face there. So I added some face shadows, and I think what I'll do is, this is sort of going off the screen here, but what I'll do is, whoops, let me go ahead and make this a little smaller. Okay, well this is going off the screen, but what I'm going to do is make the palette thumbnails here just a little bit larger. And I'll go ahead and select layer bounds. That way you can see the whole object or the contents on the layer in the entire thumbnail. Look at that. Here's the face shadows, and then the next one here was these metal objects that I'm calling metal mounts. And you can see that the original color was from the yellow engine that we found earlier. Let me go ahead and just go into the file browser here. And here's the original. I think this is the original. I've combined, I think, some of these together. Yeah, okay. I've combined some metal objects in this photo and in this photo, and I've made them into these objects that you see here. And I didn't want them to be yellow, so what I did is I created an image adjustment, actually a couple image adjustments, one for the color, and then also another one to adjust the brightness and contrast of those elements. Look at that. And then there's another layer, which is just a shadow. That way these two sides here don't look identical, because sometimes it can be a dead giveaway that you've just duplicated the layers and, you know, flip them around. And so what I wanted to do is actually place a shadow on one side. That way it looked a little bit different than the other. And here's my serial port here that just went right in the eye. Now don't ask me how I got that idea, but I don't know, I was just looking through some photos and I found this serial port. And I think it was actually a photo that I took from the back of my computer like a few years ago. And I decided to just go ahead and crop that out and use that because I wanted to place something in the eye. That way it didn't look too normal. I wanted to make it a little bit out of the ordinary. And when people look at this, you know, people familiarize themselves with people's faces. And so in design, you know, when you look at a face, you're used to seeing a particular type of face. You know, you have two eyes, a nose, and a mouth, right? Well, when you have something else there besides those elements, like people are used to looking at people at the eyes, and so when you see something in the eye, it sort of like throws you off, and you kind of go, oh, that looks kind of cool, you know, because that's just a lot different than just the normal, typical type look. But I added some shadows. I added these, here's the centerpiece that I've used right here. I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see this a little bit closer. What I did is I masked this out. I basically just cut it out of this image right here, and I flipped it around, and as soon as I placed it on the face, you could immediately tell that it needs some type of shadow. You just can't leave it like this, because if you're going to have something on a face, whether it's, you know, a pair of glasses or whatever, there's always these little shadows. So I had to create these shadows. I wanted to create a very deep, dark shadow, and then also another softer shadow, something like this. So it looks like it's really on the face. So always keep that in mind. You know, you're placing things. I'm getting more involved in shadows because I realized that that was a lot of things that were missing in my older art, is that I could have pushed the shadows just a little bit more because it really makes it look like things are really there. So what else we got here? I've also added an image adjustment to that. And I used I used my classic color blends here. Now, in a lot of these projects on this course, you can see that I've used the same blue and brown blend for the color. And I used the same ones because I wanted to sort of create this theme. I wanted everything to kind of look like everything went together. And not for all the tutorials and projects on the CD, but for some of the more darker, surreal images, I wanted to stick to the same color palette sort of. And so I always use these colors right here. But with the blue overlay, basically what it is an overlay. It's a blue overlay with the opacity turned down with a duplicate layer of the same blue with another overlay blending mode applied to that. And here's that brown color that I like to use. I changed the image adjustment to color. And see, normally it looks like this with a 100% opacity. But if I turn down that opacity, and then I change the blending mode to color, you can see it just gets rid of that haze that's over the image, and it really makes it look like that was the color that was really there. And so, but with these combined together, it really gives it a really nice result. All right, so let's scroll up here, and I have some other little details that I've added. And when I'm looking at, or when I'm creating something in Photoshop, I'll sort of see things in my head, like I'll imagine things, or things will just come to me. Like I'll look at it and I'll just look at it and go, it looks like there's something needs to be here, but I'm really not sure what it is. In this case, I added these little vector curls here on the bottom. But in a way, I've positioned them so they actually look like they're part of the metal. Look at that. And lastly is the face texture and also the hand texture. And I'll show you what this texture looks like. What this is tree bark. Look at that. Let me go ahead and just, there we go. Let me type in the percentage here for this opacity. That way I just don't forget why we're doing this tutorial. 43%. There we go. But this is really tree bark that I've downloaded from the Stock Exchange website. And I liked it because it's just a really very, very coarse texture. It's very thick and it has a lot of detail to it. And I thought that would just be awesome. And you know what? I tried a lot of different textures. I didn't just pick one, and it's a lot of experimentation. I don't always get it on the first try. I've tried several different textures, but I found this one to work the best. But I wanted to have this sort of tree bark thickness to the skin and everything. But the way it came out looked something like this. And I've also added the same texture, exact same texture, over the hand, because you can see this is how it is here. A little bit blurred out, but when I added that hand texture, you can see that brought a little bit more detail into the hand there and sort of made it blend in with the face here. So let's go back over what we talked about. I started off with the original stock image that I had right here, and I went over to the sxc.hu Stock Exchange website to look for parts of engines and different things like that. And I placed them into, or I saved them to my hard drive. And then what I did is I opened them up into Photoshop. And then I zoomed into them. And I grabbed the pen tool. And I just went around the parts that I wanted. And let me go ahead and just redo this, because I didn't have the paths only. And I just went in here and made a path around the objects on the photo, or the pieces on the photo that I wanted to keep and cut out to use for my project. And I'm doing this very fast so I can just show you what I did here. And I connected it, and I can right click inside of that path, click on make a selection, click OK, and that makes that a selection. And I can just come up here to edit, copy, and then we can move over to the project here, and I can go to edit, paste, and I can paste this part onto the project, so I can place this wherever I want it. And that's what I did for all these parts on the face here. I did that the exact same way. So if you would like to master masking and cropping, check out the masking and cropping video on this course, and I will go in depth and show you a bunch of different ways how you can cut out objects or mask hair and anything that has to do with masking and cropping. It's all on that video. So, well, there you have it, and I hope you learned some things during this video, and that is how I created the Darkfaces image. And we'll see you guys on the next video.